is there.
But there is controversy, lingering controversy over the 2020 and 2024 draft. The issue is about the time limit. When should it start? The issue of being retroactive or not. Now, if the present debate is anything to go by, how do you see the draft 2024 draft going through the National Assembly without a referendum? I mean, having known that both parties, the UDP, NPP, and the Independent plus the APRC, how are they going to see eye to eye on this draft, which has a lot of controversial issues.
You see, the people talking about controversial issues in the 2024 draft are the same people who rejected the 2020 draft in the National Assembly when it came to the House of Parliament. Because at that time, in 2020, President Barrow had no single member of Parliament. There was no UDP. There was no NPP in 2020. Majority of the members of the National Assembly at the time were members of the UDP. And those are the ones that voted against the draft in 2020. Some people, opposition element may tell you, well, they were already Barrow supporters. They were already willing to discard the UDP. They were defectors. But they were UDP elected members of parliament who rejected the 2020 draft. And they are the same people today who go to Kerfatu and many other platforms and tell you we are going to vote against the 2024 draft. The 2024 draft is a lot more better than 1997. Now, if they get their way and vote the 2024 draft out, what do we have? The default is 1997. So whatever the case, I think they need to allow the 2024 draft to pass, and let's perfect it as we go. Constitution building can take decades, can be multi-generational. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to pass. It just has to be acceptable. And I think the 2024 draft, at its worst, is better than the 1997. So the best thing is to have it passed, because in the 2020 draft, there were things that were unacceptable and unacceptable to reasonable Gambians. Retroactive clauses are not acceptable. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think it is basic tenets that you cannot make laws and make them retroactive. It is just to generate controversy. You cannot make officers or offices under the Constitution that the president have no control. I mean, I can understand the president have no interest in controlling IEC. President have no interest in controlling Auditor General's office. And in fact, it is the same way it is protected even in the 2024 draft. But now who tells you that you live in a very democratic United States, that the president of the United States cannot fire the head of FBI? The president of the United States cannot fire the head of the army. If we have that kind of country, who will be in charge of the country? If the president cannot fire the Inspector General of Police, and then will he take his command? If the president cannot fire the army chief without confirmation by the National Assembly, if the National Assembly is led by the opposition, and the president cannot fire the IGP or the army commander, who will they be taking command from? Will the country be governable? It cannot be governable. And these are some of the things that we don't agree with. We have it straightened out that even in democratic societies, there is authority vested in the elected head of the executive. That is the president. He's the one elected by the country. And the draft of 2020 wanted to make this country ungovernable. That is to have offices in this country that are so-called independent, that they will not be answerable to the president, they will not be answerable to the National Assembly, they will not be answerable to the... I mean, the National Assembly cannot remove the IG. The president cannot remove the IG. Who removes the IG? He'll be there and then he gives any command he wishes. It cannot be like... Even the president can be removed by the National Assembly in the Constitution. As bad as it is, the 1997 Constitution. The National Assembly can remove the president. The National Assembly can impeach us, the ministers, and will be removed the next day. But they want to have a type of constitution that the country will be ungovernable. So yes, that is why it was thrown out, and that we have streamlined. All the reasons that why the 2020 was rejected are the things that we removed and simplified in the 2024 draft. And I think that is what they have not agreed with. And trust me, had UDP been in government, they would happily take the 1997 constitution over anything, as bad as it is. So for us, the 2024 is not perfect. It is near perfect and acceptable. They need to allow it to pass so that we can perfect it as we go. Constitution building is multi-generational. It cannot be done in one day or in 1 week or in just one, I mean, it cannot be just in a heartbeat.
Dr. Demba Sabally, apart from your portfolio as agriculture minister, being the second, like literally in command with the NPP, what are the chances for the NPP in 2026? In the Gambia, almost every day you hear of a scandal, insecurity, the issue of armed robbery, the issue of, child, molestation. There comes a time when people would just believe that, things are just going from bad to worse. With all these things creeping out, there is so much growing content to an extent that people are waiting for the day to cast their vote. And the likelihood is that a lot of people will be surprised if the MPP is voted out. Does these things actually come to your mind that maybe you guys, are so complacent that, it's a foregone conclusion like 2021 election, that this time is going to be like a walk in the park?
I think this question is being asked to the wrong person, because to say complacent and comfortable, this was the mentality of UDP in 2021. They had this belief that they've won the election because the majority of the Gambians were silent and sat aside and just waited for the day go and cast their vote for His Excellency President Barrow, and we won by a landslide. It is the same scenario. It is that minority that is so loud out there, that is so vocal, that is so domineering in the social media, making you and many other people believe that the NPP is unpopular, the country is on fire, people are suffering. This is just because the silent majority are silent, minding their business. The few that are loud on social media and everywhere. But I can assure you,
but there is so much going on in terms of the insecurity issues, lapses in security here, the issue of armed robbery, broad daylight robbery, stabbing. There is so much frequent crime in the Gambia. It's scary, Doctor. This is not only about being loudmouth.
I agree with you. It has happened. But now, statistically, armed robberies have gotten were much worse in 2013, 2014 than you are talking about now. It is not as if armed robbery is something new in the Gambia or it just started. There have been armed robberies in this country. In the security situation was so worse in this country before the government of President Barrow that you were insecure about everybody, not even armed robbers. Everybody was a security threat to you, even your own family. Today, that is not what we have in the Gambia. So yes, there are armed robberies, and I agree. And there is no country where you can tell me that there are no armed robberies. In fact, Gambia probably is still the safest country than most countries that you think are top-notch today. So yes, those few armed robberies are unfortunate. The Inspector General's office and the Ministry of Interior is doing their best. But overall, crime rate is still lowest. Most of the murders, if not all, of the murders that you are hearing in this country are household murders. There will never be any security in any country that will stop a wife killing a husband. It will not be possible. Or a co-wife killing a co-wife. These are the kind of murders we have here. Or a son who is psychotic killing a father. I mean, what stops somebody from taking a cutlass and chopping your father? I mean, these are things that are happening internally. And it's an impossibility to defend. It's an impossibility to mitigate. However, armed robberies and other crimes that are conducted, the police are apprehending the culprits. And that is the most important part. These criminals are not going scot-free. It's not like you do armed robbery and you do it again and again. 90% or more of all these armed robbers have been arrested within 72 hours of committing these crimes. I think that is very reassuring for our population, contrary to what the social media pundits want people to believe, that Gambia is almost like, robbers are working willy-nilly. No, it's not like that.
Yeah, the NPP government or the Barrow government also see a lot of people are also not happy about the foot dragging measures it takes towards corrupt individuals or corrupt institutions. And the TRRC was never implemented. If it has been implemented when it's on paper, the Jana Commission too, no one has seen any harsh measures or implementation. So these are all issues that are also lying at the back of electorate when it's time to vote. These are things they will put at the back. And the issue of Jame also, the lingering issue of Jame, and the marriage of convenience you had with APRC. So to see that Fabaga Tombonjada and the likes of Sidinjai are brought into the NPP fold so that you guys can exchange notes and then move the country forward or move your agenda forward. So talk to us about some of these issues, the slow pace of implementation of the colossal sums of money that was spent. Even the CRC, a lot of money was spent on it. So these are things that people are also documented that, Gambians need to know.
I think I will start with the CRC. Yes. Look, let me start with the CRC. The CRC drafted a constitution. What does that got to do with the government of President Barrow? President Barrow's government cleared it from cabinet and moved it to the National Assembly. That was led and dominated by UDP, and they rejected it. So even if $1 billion was spent, President Barrow has spent it in goodwill. That is to give Gambia a modern constitution, and he trusted those professionals. They drafted a constitution that was near imperfect and unfortunately rejected by National Assembly. That wasn't rejected by President Barrow and his cabinet. But again, when you come to saying that slow pace, the cabinet has accepted the white paper of the TRRC. And what it did is in a process of implementation. The people who were banned have been banned. Some people have been sacked. And as we speak, Cabinet accepted the white paper. The implementation requires the setting up of special tribunals. I'm sure you are fully aware of this. We've had challenges even at ECOWAS level. You know it was rejected at the first go. Second time round, it has been endorsed by the ECOWAS community, and I think the process is ongoing. There is need for a lot of resources to implement the TRRC recommendations, and the donor partners are with us in this. The Ministry of Justice is dedicated to this, and I'm sure every genuine Gambian knows President Barrow has goodwill to implement the TRRC. It is a resource issue and a procedural issue, and it is ongoing. Yes, it may take time. But now, let's look at other countries. We are talking about TRRC. How many years? 5, 6 years? Just wrapped up, let's say, 5 years ago, 4 years. There are countries that post-civil war, first, it wasn't even a civil war. There are countries post-civil war. It took a decade to even finish their court system. When did the court systems in Tanzania wrap up for the Rwandan tribunal? It is over 10 years even after the genocide. How long did it take Sierra Leone to wrap up, post-civil war? It wasn't even a civil war. It wasn't a genocide. And it is just 4 years after TRRC. People are so impatient and calling it foot dragging, calling it every kind of name. The process is ongoing. It has installed. It has some resource challenges. It is mainly funded by the donor partners, but it is ongoing. And I think if people compare and contrast it with other events and in other countries, they will definitely give it an A+. But yes, a lot of our people are not very patient. It's understandable. And if you are a victim or family of from a family that are victims, we sympathize with you. Understand that President Barrow feels that same pain. That is what pushed him to sacrifice his life and his family in 2016 to get the Gambia out of dictatorship. And most of those people making that noise today, had they been chosen in 2016 to lead any political party against Yahya Jammeh, they would have declined. We know some who have even declined to lead against Yahya Jammeh in 2016. So we need to give that little breathing space to the democratic space that President Barrow has created, allowing people to complain. And I think it's because of that space that President Barrow has created, that is what has allowed even this mentality of the government is not serious about TRRC. I mean, the government willingly, it wasn't conditional. It was not a donor condition. It was from the goodwill of President Barrow to set up the TRRC. And he did that, appointing individuals that were seen to be competent at the time. And the report generated was submitted to cabinet and was accepted in totality. Look, this average acceptance of commission reports is about 70-75%. This commission report, over 90% of their report was accepted by the government. I think we should give the government A+ for that. And on top of acceptance, the implementation itself is ongoing. People have been fired from their jobs. Those who the commission recommended to be off their jobs. There are people who are recommended for prosecution. The special tribunal is being set up. Already, special prosecutor is appointed. So it is a process. It's slow. I wouldn't even call it slow. It's ongoing.
What about the alleged corruption or corrupt practices that seems to be unheeded by the government or acted on by the government? The airport infrastructure, a lot of people complain about it or are still complaining about it, while at the same time government is taking levy, from travelers from to and fro. So what do you have to say about it?
I think you are mixing apples and oranges here. Because if you talk about corruption, you talk about airport, you talk about levies, asking somebody to pay $1,000, security levy, that has nothing to do with corruption.
No. The issue is about the infrastructure that was done at the airport. Where does money go? So it boils down to the issue of the money being taken by government or even from taxpayers is not being put at the right place, or if it is being put at the right place, not everything is spent on that place. So when there was then the issue of infrastructure problems or related challenges emanated from the airport, this is what boils down the issue of corruption and the like. It's not just corruption on the face of it.
I would have expected, and I know you did this. You probably researched Gambia's corruption index. If you had researched our corruption index by Transparency International, Gambia is not getting worse. We are getting better year by year. And this corruption index is conducted by very independent-minded, non-opposition elements who are world-renowned economists, conducted this transparency, this corruption index. And why is Gambia not sliding? Why are we not getting worse? If this so-called opposition perception that Gambia corruption is rampant, look, I tell people, if you know I'm corrupt, please go to the nearest police station. Go to the IGP and report Dr. Sabally of a corruption activity. Go and report any minister. And the president have said this. Inform us what is the corruption that they are talking about. They just believe that a corrupt activity is taking place without sufficient evidence, and they want the government to just act. Look, as we speak, permanent secretaries have been prosecuted and imprisoned for corrupt activities under President Barrow. People have been dismissed from the civil service for corrupt activities. People are interdicted for corrupt practices. So the government is doing its best, given the evidence before it. But for somebody to just sit down and assume that Mr. Balde is corrupt from nowhere, we cannot stop that mindset. And because of the democratic space, they are also free to talk about it. In the Ajami days, corruption was more. He can write a small note and give it to a general to go and collect money from the central bank. But why wasn't it talked about around that time? Why wasn't it talked about? These people who are making the noise around corruption today, where were they at the time? The bottom line is, today, even their mere belief that there is corruption at agriculture, or corruption at trade, or corruption at ports, or corruption, their mere belief, they will use that mere belief, amplify it with social media without evidence, and make the vulnerable, those that are very culpable, to believe that there's corruption. As far as I'm concerned, President Barrow is the biggest anti-corrupt person in this country. In fact, he will not be your friend if you are even close to being corrupt. So the bottom line is, those that are alleging the government of corruption, please let them report the corrupt practices to the Inspector General of Police. And that aside, why is the government so keen on passing the anti-corruption, forming the anti-corruption commission. As we speak, the vacancy, people are applying to the Ministry of Justice online, the commissioners of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Corrupt governments don't go and set up anti-corruption commissions.
Some can argue, clearly can say that's on paper, maybe window dressing.
It cannot be a window dressing. This commission, there is no commission in this country that is not independent. The National Human Rights Commission is very independent and is very active. You see how they criticize the government. The Independent Electoral Commission, you see how they conduct themselves. This SOE Commission, you see how they conduct themselves. So the Anti-Corruption Commission is not going to be any different. It is going to be very active and it's going to be very potent. Whether you are corrupt in public service or private, whatever it is, they are going to go after you. And if President Barrow and his government were corrupt, we are not under any pressure to create an anti-corruption commission. And we are creating that. We passed the law. We made the law as an executive, took it to the National Assembly. We are the majority. And we still pass the anti-corruption bill and forming the anti-corruption commission. And they still sit down in their comfort zone and say the government is corrupt. Let them share with you, the journalists, let them share with you the corrupt activities that they know is evidence that is taking place under the government of President Barrow.
Dr. Sabally, have you ever regretted the decision of being a senior member of the GDC?
No. I have not regretted anything I did in GDC or being. When we formed GDC, there was no NPP in this country. I am an ardent opponent of UDP from get-go. And when we formed the GDC in 2015, it was to take Yahya Jammeh out of government. And that was my sole goal, was to get Yahya out. The chances of GDC winning the election was very slim. But we were with the belief, and I was with the belief that most of the voters that we will get in GDC are going to come from the Yahya Jammeh camp, are going to come from APRC. And that was going to make it possible for the coalition to defeat Yahya Jammeh. Had we not formed the GDC, we had 80,000 votes in 2016. Those 80,000 voters, 90% of them would have voted for Yahya Jammeh had not GDC been formed. So GDC in 2015 into 2016 played a crucial role in defeating Yahya Jammeh. And I am very happy to have taken part in that 2015-2016 activity to remove a dictator from this country. Yes, our goal after that, Yahya Jammeh is gone. UDP has abandoned Adama Barrow. And they intended, and they said it clearly, that they want a pure UDP government. I cannot sit idly by in GDC, knowing that had we continued that path, UDP may end up being a government as they wish, a pure UDP government. I do not want to see a day in my life when UDP is the government of this country.
Why do you hate UDP? You seem to hate UDP with a passion.
Yes, I don't hate UDP. I disagree with their beliefs. And I disagree with them strongly, and I am happy to express that bravely too. So yes, because we have tasted what a UDP government will be in 2016, 2017, and into 2018. We also, how they started, when Barrow let them manage the country, we also how they behaved in this country. Their violent tendencies are apparent to everybody. Those who are brave enough to say it will say it. Those who will stay mute will stay mute. But UDP will be worse than a dictatorship in this country. Because President Ousainou Darboe, as an opposition leader, called for Inspector General of Police to arrest A, B, and C. Even last week, he said, Bahum should be arrested. Why will you, at that level, a former vice president, be going to dictate the Inspector General of Police who to arrest and who not to arrest? But if he was the president, don't you think that it would be worse? If he was president, he would dictate, he would instruct the IGP to arrest you, me, and anybody else. Because even as opposition leader, he's instructing him to arrest Mr. Bahum or arrest somebody else. As opposition leader, he took a very independent, very, very vulnerable lady, I don't want to mention the name, to Karaba police station, said the lady insulted him. How many people are insulting President Barrow? A lot of them, hundreds or even thousands. He has never taken any one of them to the police or instructed for their arrest. But this and many other reasons made me believe that UDP is not good for the country. Not for me. I'm a professional.
But
I
what
will
about
survive
now?
even in a
But in
UDP government.
politics, Dr. Sabally, in politics, you never say never. You know, what about if they come to power? How are you going to feel? Are you going to leave the country for them?
No, me, I will be a corpse, but I will never leave this country for any government. I did not leave this country for the item. I was here. I was part of the people who formed a political party in 2015. We went to campaign while Yahya Jammeh was here with his guns, and we went to election, and he was defeated. So if I did not leave this country for a dictator who could have slaughtered anybody, I am definitely not going to leave this country for a UDP government. But I am pretty convinced that UDP shall not be a government in my lifetime.
Oh, wow. Okay, now let's move into the issue of the diaspora voting. Dr. Sabally, you were in the diaspora. How do you feel when a section of the Gambia's population, economically they are a strength, being marginalized?
Thank you, Mr. Balde, for this question. I wouldn't use the word marginalized. See, I have a strong respect for the diaspora and strong admiration. I was there for a decade plus. It is a process, and the National Assembly members that voted against and for, they all put forward their reasoning. And the reasoning that the members of assembly who voted against it put forward was a constitutional issue, that there need to be some reforms in the law itself. I think they quoted section 33. I don't want to be specific on this one. I'm not a lawyer. But they said until that one is changed, it will be illegal for them to have voted yes, because you have to be registered in a constituency to qualify to vote. And the diaspora has not been registered as a constituency. For that to happen, there is need for amendment in the part of the Constitution of 1997 Constitution to amend a part to allow the diaspora itself to be considered a constituency. Until that is done, they cannot pass a law that will allow somebody in the diaspora to be registered under what? Because that 1997 clearly said that the country is divided in 53 constituencies, so must be in one of them. The Constitution has not recognized the diaspora as a constituency. But they could not create a law that will contravene or go against the spirit of the Constitution. So those that voted against it, they did not vote against the diaspora people. And I want this message to be clear. They voted to comply with a very serious and critical component of the Constitution. And I think what we need as a country is to now look at the whole thing with that view. Okay, since it is a constitutional barrier, does it require a referendum? Does it require a simple change by a majority of National Assembly? That is what needs to be fixed. That will enable us move to pass the hurdle of diaspora voting. But the message of the opposition is the people who voted against the diaspora voting are NPP members of parliament, and these people voted against the diaspora. No, President Barrow was in the diaspora. Majority of the cabinet ministers were in the diaspora. Ibrahim Asila was in the diaspora. I was in the diaspora. A lot of us. So this is our family. So National Assembly members did not vote against the diaspora. They voted to comply with the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. As imperfect as it may be as of now, that is what we need to perfect. That is the Constitution we need to perfect. And once that is done, I don't think anybody will have qualms about diaspora people having the right to.
Finally, Dr. Sabally, Gambia, since the 2016, since the advent of the Barrow government, the ECOMIG forces have been in the country. It comes to a point when you say enough is enough. Now let us hand over the security, internal security, to the Gambia Armed Forces, or the security, whatever security in the country that are tasked, even including the personal bodyguard or personal security detail of the president. This hasn't been done. This seems to remind people that, Yahya Jammeh's fear is there because why is ECOMIG still in the country? And then Yahya Jammeh also been free to send audios here and there, giving threats. So that's all adding up to the layer of insecurity in the country that maybe there's a possibility. If it happened in America, like the second coming of Trump, Jammeh could also come back and make a political comeback, a political tsunami in the Gambia.
Yeah. Anyway, let me put it this way. The presence of economic forces in no way speaks to lack of trust for our gallant men and women. President Adama Barrow's government has a lot of respect for uniformed men, both men and women, and he appreciates and adores their work and their services to the nation in protecting us. But let's look at this in a different context. The presence of foreign forces in the Gambia is just about 8 years. The country where you are, your troops are in Germany for the last 70 years. Is Germany a fragile state?
Well, there are US troops. That's different. That's different.
Oh, okay. Now, there are US troops in South Korea. Is South Korea a fragile state?
No, that's different.
Well, I can continue mentioning these countries for more than 10 or 15 different countries that there are foreign troops. Even in West Africa, there are countries that have foreign troops. Our next door neighbor is Senegal. The French troops have been there for the past 60 years.
But that's completely isolated. The Gambia went through the issue of Yahya Jammeh holding strong because he thought the election 2016 was rigged. So the fact is he said he was not going to hand over power. There must be election. We must go for a rerun. And then ECOWAS leaders put up a proposal to come and invade the Gambia and forcefully get him out of power if need be. God being so good, that did not happen. But still, ECOMIG intervened and to restore kind of tensions there. But now, those forces are still there. So the comparison you are giving about U.S. forces being in all over the world is completely different. It's not about stability. That's personal to the US. It's not to those countries.
You tell me, you are telling me the presence of U.S. forces in South Korea is not about stability. That's unrealistic. You know it's about stability. You know that.
But South Korea, South Korea do not request it because of political or because of threat. These are things that you cannot compare. Gambia having ECOMIG forces there, and then US having forces all over the world. These are unrelated issues.
Well, I can narrow it down to your context.
Okay.
That look, it is the ECOWAS soldiers are here, paid for by ECOWAS, not by the Gambian taxpayer. Because most of the opposition element out there, what they want the population to believe is the government of President Barrow is wasting millions of your dollars paying foreign forces to do something that our Gambians can do. Well, the ECOMIG forces in this country are paid for by ECOWAS, not by the government and taxpayers of this country.
But yeah, let's accept the fact that no dime is spent on their upkeep. Right. But still, it creates lingering doubts about whether, the Gambia security forces are to be trusted, or whether the issue of Yahya Jammeh's loyalty, around the country or within the security force is still permeates within the security system. So that's what it creates. It's not people are complaining.
To be honest, Mr. Balde, I'm not a security expert. I'm more comfortable with agriculture and politics. But nonetheless, I want to make this thing very, very clear that the security forces of this country are part and parcel of those protecting the president. If any of you is familiar with the State House, you would understand that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Gambian soldiers that are stationed and protecting the office of the president, protecting the State House. So the misnomer that president is being protected only by foreign forces is a false narrative. It is a narrative being peddled by the opposition elements. Yes, We have foreign forces that are here in the Gambia, mainly some of them based in the Phonis, some of them based in the Nyomis. But yes, there is still need for them here. And the reason why they are here is best known to ECOWAS and to the government. And since they are not costing us anything, I don't think it should be top priority. Those calling for ECOWAS to leave, in fact, what is their ball game? What do they gain if ECOWAS leaves tomorrow? What is the added value for them as passing or us as a country? What is the added value?
No, the added value is to normalize the security setup as it is now.
In fact, the security setup is normalized. We have a national army headed by a Gambian as chief of defense staff. We have a police force headed by. There is nothing abnormal about our security setup. Our security setup has not been altered at all. If anything, it has been reformed and it has been better. It is more professional. And I think as it is, we in government and the majority of Gambians, we do not have issues with this.
Dr. Sabally,
it is just the few
Dr. Sabally,
opposition elements.
It's a symbolic reminder about the 2016. So once you see them, even though, like you said, the Gambia is not paying a dime on their upkeep, but it still send chills in the minds, or in this, in the minds of the electorate or the people. And when they see them, they are reminded about what happened in 2016.
And there are so many things in this country that when you see it, you'll be reminded of Yahya Jammeh. Even if we remove the foreign forces, you will see the arch. You will remember Yahya Jammeh. You will see Buyam Hospital. You will remember Yahya Jammeh. I mean, we cannot erase here. He was president for 22 years. So thinking that if we remove the foreign forces, that is going to erase from our minds, the dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh is unrealistic. Or the past of 2016 is unrealistic. So removing foreign forces is not going to delete that. The bottom line is, my question to those, in fact, I said this at the rally in Timbanor. If we remove the foreign forces today, what impact does it? What is it that they are looking for removal of foreign forces? What added value will it bring to them as people, or what added value will it bring to us as a country? Let's say tomorrow all economic forces leave, and then so what? So what? The country is going to get better because ECOMIG has gone home, or we are going to get richer because ECOMIG has gone home. We are going to get more stable because ECOMIG has gone home. I mean, what is it that we are going to benefit as a country? If we were spending $300, $500 million annually to maintain ECOMIG forces, you can say, look, this is a waste. We can use this money to build hospitals or to build bridges. Let them leave so that we can use that bigger envelope to build something for our country. We are not spending a dime. So I think those calling for the removal of ECOMIG forces have something ulterior other than just about the Gambia.
Have something? Ulterior motives?
Yeah, that's that. Of course. Other than that, what else is their reason? None of them has still put up a very good reason to us that is convincing that yes, we ECOMIG forces needs to go. And then so what? If they go tomorrow, so what? What is the added value to the country? What is the benefit? Let them list to us. What are the benefits if ECOMIG leaves tomorrow? What happens to Gambia after that? Positively, that the ECOMIG force is impeding today. I don't see any, and nobody has up to now put up any good reason. And so I am in the camp that believe that ECOMIG forces being here is no harm.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Demba Sabally, Minister of Agriculture and Deputy National President of the ruling NPP. Is there anything else that you would like to add, perhaps to clarify here and there?
Well, it's to thank you and the platform for giving us the opportunity to talk to the people here in Gambia, and I'm sure majority of your listeners are in the diaspora, and is to encourage them to speak peace and act peace. Gambia is our country, whether we live in the Gambia or we live in the diaspora. And a peaceful Gambia is better for everybody. And we cannot develop without peace. So let them preach peace and let them believe in democracy. Gambia's election is rig-proof. We cannot rig election, and it has never been done so. And so we intend to have His Excellency President Adama Barrow in 2026 as our NPP presidential election. If they believe that President Barrow is not popular, if they believe they can win election, let them stop this noise or this threat of term violence. It's unnecessary, it's uncalled for, because we cannot select which part of the Constitution to respect and which part of the Constitution not to respect. Until otherwise, this country is governed by the 1997 Constitution. And the 1997 Constitution gives authority to President Barrow to be our candidate in 2016 and beyond. Until the laws are changed, until then, we all need to respect the Constitution as a whole, not as a part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay.